time to divide for the neck, and I have worked my way across 10 stitches of chart B, and it's time for me to bind off the center 18. And then we're going to look at those fancy chart stitches that have the decreases built into the cable. But first, just a plain old join a new ball and bind off. So I'm not going to do anything fancy schmancy with this neck divide because you'll see it's just easier to weave in the ends later and not do anything fancy because we're in the middle of cables. So I'm just going to fold that yarn in half, loop it over the needle, and knit my first stitch. Now I am going to bind off in pattern, so this next stitch is a purl. So I'm going to bring that yarn to the front, and I am going to purl. Now the one thing I always do is just hang on to that tail as you grab that first stitch and pass over. It just makes it a little easier. You'll always snug up on that tail later. So it doesn't really matter whether you pick or throw. As usual, I will do both, but we are just binding off the center 18. Now, one thing that you can do, which I didn't actually do, but I sometimes like to look at it from the front to see what I should have, which is I should have those 2 knit stitches of the cable and 1 purl. So you can always put in a locking stitch marker right here if you feel like you're about to lose track, right? Like right now I have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. Oh, wait, sorry. I was counting from the wrong cable. It's the one, yeah, 1, 2. Okay, there we are. So I have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 left to bind off. And the other thing, just going to pass this over for a second, is if you lose track of where you are in the bind off, you can always both count the braids, right? There we have, there's 1, 2, 3, 4. But you can also count the columns of stitches. So you can look below, and now this stitch that's on the needle, that has not been bound off yet. So there I have 1, I have 2, I have 3, and there's my 4th. So I'm just going to keep binding off all the way. There's nothing too exciting about a bind off. And then I will finish that row. And then we'll take a look at working 2 sides at the same time. And most importantly, we're going to look at those rows. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to finish up this row. So we're going to take a look at those rows with the special shaping that are in the cables. So that's row 44 and 46. Okay, so I'll see you in a bit. I've worked my way to the first decrease within a cable, and I'm going to do it once with a cable needle and once without, and it's just so much easier for me to do it without. So this is a 2 over 2 right purl 2 together, which means we have 2 knit stitches crossing over the purls, but we're going to purl the 2 together. So the weird thing about this cable symbol is, for those of you who are really used to working with charts, you'll think, ooh, this row doesn't have any decrease. But it actually does. There's just frankly not a great way to show this cable with a decrease, because if I didn't have this stitch, then you'd think, oh no, I did it wrong, because it is followed by a knit stitch, which is why you'll notice the next row, doink, it kind of rights itself by jogging over by 2 stitches because we have a decrease on the next row as well. But first, let's just focus on this one, which is the 2 over 2 right purl 2 together cross. So with a cable needle, that means the stitches that I'm holding to the back are going to be these 2 purl stitches. So I'm going to slip those 2 to the cable needle, and then I'm going to hold them to the back. I swear I'm legitimately bad at cabling with a cable needle now because I'm so used to cabling without. So the definition tells you for the 2 over 2 right purl 2 together cross, slip next 2 stitches to cable needle, place it to the back of the work, knit 2, then purl 2 together from the cable needle. So I'm going to undo this after I finish it, and I'm going to show you how much easier it is to do without a cable needle. So I'll knit these 2, which I find really awkward with this cable needle flopping around in the background. And now there's my decrease. So instead of purling 2, I simply purl those 2 together. And that's how we're actually shaping within the cable. And then you're followed by a knit 1. So I'm going to go ahead and take this apart, and let's look at that again without a cable needle. So as always with cabling without a cable needle, it's so much easier for me because I know these 2 knit stitches are going to change places with these 2 purls, and it's going to cross to the right. So I'm going to grab those 2 knit stitches, put my finger against the other 2 purls so they don't fall off, slide all 4 stitches off the needle, put those 2 purl stitches right back on, doink, make my right cross, and boom, I've rearranged the 4 stitches, and there you can see that right cross, easy peasy, and then I knit them. So I just find this so much easier. So there's my knit 2, which with the cable needle you did, off of the knitting needle, and then there's my purl 2 together, which you did off the cable needle. So there we go. And that's my first neck decrease. So let's take a look now at the other one over here on this side. Let's look at that chart. And here you have a left cross. Now, some of you might be wondering, like, hey, why isn't that an SSP? Because it doesn't matter, right? You're not going to be able to tell the slant of those purls, and a purl 2 together is just easier, right? So here you have 2 stitches crossing to the left over the purl 2 together. So this time I'm going to reverse the order. I'll do it first without a cable needle, and then I'll do it with a cable needle. And of course I'm done with this ball of yarn, and now I go over here to this ball of yarn. And I'm going to begin with my knit 1, because that's the first thing I do on my chart. Knit 1. And now these 2 stitches have to cross over the 2 purls, but this time they have to cross to the front. So that means that schoolyard bully needle is going to go behind them, right, to push those 2 stitches to the front. Back they go onto the needle, make the cross, and now work them. So this time I have my purl 2 together first. There we go. And there's my knit 2. And there's my decrease within the cable. So I'll take this one apart now and do it with the cable needle. So this time I'm going to slip 2 stitches to the cable needle and hold them in front, and I purl 2 together off the knitting needle, and I knit 2 off the cable needle. So with a cable needle it looks like this. I slip these 2 stitches to the cable needle and leave it hanging there in front. Now I do my purl two together. And then I knit two from the cable needle. So personal preference, but I find this a heck of a lot harder. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and work across the row, and then we'll take a look at our wrong side row, putting in our two decreases, and then we'll take a look at that next decrease cable. So here I've worked my way to the edge, and this little symbol, remember, is on a wrong side row, which means on a wrong side row, that's going to be an SSP. So I'm going to do it once for the regular knitters, and then I'm going to do it for the backwards knitters. Okay, so an SSP stands for slip, slip, purl, which means we're reversing the positions of the stitches so that it slants to the left. So I'm slipping one as if to knit, I'm slipping one as if to knit, and then I'm putting them right back where they came from. So as you see, I've reversed the stitch mounts. So then I can enter stitch number one and then stitch number two, and I do an SSP. Oh, it's a good thing that I'm doing it once for backwards because I actually did it in the wrong position. Whoops, sorry. I was supposed to do that one more stitch in. So let me undo that. Okay, so there. Now I'm in the right position. So now I'm going to turn it around. And let's look at that for backwards knitting. So for backwards knitting, I have to do the same thing. I have to slip one as if to knit, slip one as if to knit in order to reverse the stitch mounts so that I can then enter stitch number one and then stitch number two and purl them together. And that's what makes that slant to the left. Now over here, I'll do this for regular knitting first, and we'll go ahead and do it backwards. I have my purl one at the edge, and then I have a purl two together. So this guy right here is a knit two together when it's done on the right side, but of course we are on the wrong side, so that is going to be a purl two together. So nothing very exciting about a purl two together, just looks like that. I'm not even going to finish it. I'm going to turn it around and I will do it backwards. And again, whoops, sorry, I just smacked into my camera. There's nothing terribly exciting about a purl two together backwards either. You are just entering stitch number one and then stitch number two, and you are working them together. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this row, and then we do want to take a look at together the next decrease within the cable. So I'll see you in a couple seconds. So here we have the same idea, but it's 2 stitches crossing over 3 to the right on this side of the neck, and 2 stitches crossing over 3 to the left. So I'm going to reverse it and do it first without a cable needle because I really think you'll find this so much easier, and then I'll do it with a cable needle. So I get to see it just visually, and I know these 2 stitches are the ones that are going to cross over these 3, and they're going to cross to the right. So I need to grab them, slide them onto the cable needle, and I park my finger there and I slide everybody off, and then I just put everybody right back on. So there's my 3, boom, I make my cross. You can give it a little wiggle and jiggle if you want, because it will feel tight. When you're doing 2 over 3, it is going to feel tight. And then I go ahead and knit my 2, doesn't matter whether you pick or throw. And I will do my purl 2 together, and then my purl 1. Now, it doesn't matter a lot if you forget which is which, but I just like to do the actual definition with the cable needle says that I'm going to slip 2 stitches to the cable needle, place them to the back. Oh, sorry, reading the wrong one. Slip 3 stitches to the cable needle, place it to the back of the work, knit 2, then purl 2 together and purl 1 from the cable needle. So I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to purl 2 together. And I just like to think like, oh yeah, I want the purl 2 together to be the one most buried. So that's why I do that one first in the cable. Purl 2 together, purl 1. And there you go. There's that cable crossing over the other stitches. So I will go ahead and undo it and do it much more awkwardly, in my humble opinion, with a cable needle. So here's the same stitch with that cable needle. I need to slip 1, 2, 3 stitches to the cable needle and hold it to the back. The other thing is I really hate doing continental when I have a cable needle because the yarn is just in my way. Can you really tell that I don't love doing everything with a cable needle? Okay, so now I have my knit 2. And now I gotta bring that guy back. Find my yarn, which I've lost. I'm genuinely bad at cabling with a cable needle. It's been so long since I've done it. I'm just genuinely bad at it. And now I purl 2 together. And I purl 1. And there's my knit 1 at the edge. Okay, so let's take a look at the other side with the left cross. And I will start with my knit 1. Okay, so now I need these 2 stitches to travel over those 3. So I'll do it first with a cable needle. So if I'm going to get those to travel to the left, I need to slip 2 stitches to the cable needle and put them to the front. So these 2 I will knit later. And then I go ahead and I put in my purl 2 together, purl 1, then I turn that guy around, find my yarn, which I always lose. No, that's the tail. This is not for show. I'm genuinely bad at cabling with a cable needle because it has been so many years since I've touched a cable needle. There we go. And those stitches are now traveling to the left. So now I'll take a look at that without a cable needle. Okay, so if these 2 stitches have to travel to the left, I know I have to grab these 3 from behind, pop those to the front, put them right back on the needle, make that cross, put all of these on the needle. So here, to have that purl 2 closest, I'll go ahead, closest to the cable cross, I'll go ahead and purl 1, and then I'll do my purl 2 together. It genuinely, it's so not the end of the world which order you do them in, so don't stress over it because no one will see. And there's my knit 2. And there you go. There's that left traveling cross. So I'm going to go ahead and finish up this row. And then I just want to talk about those decreases that are on the right side and the wrong side that end up with a purl stitch on the public side. So after we finish our last shaping and cable, we have a few more rows of doing a decrease every row before we start going to the every other row that will continue across cable A. We're going to look at that separately. So all I wanted to tell you is to just be aware of the direction of the slant. But I also wanted to be really honest with you, which is to say that once you get into here, which is the edge is always going to be a knit one and the decrease is always going to be in a purl stitch. The secret is you can't really see the difference that well on the public side, whether it's a right slanting or left slanting. So that's my little secret that you don't have to worry that much. But here on a wrong side, I just want you to remember, like, oh yeah, I'm on a wrong side, so that if that is slanting to the left over here, that's going to be an SSK. If this is slanting to the right over here, that's going to be a purl two together. And if I'm in the public side, that's going to be a knit two together. If I'm on the public side, oh yeah, purl two together, SSP. So it's really pretty intuitive, right? If I'm a regular knitter, I'm going to do an SSK because that's going to be a purl on the public side. And if I was a backwards knitter, it's kind of even more WYSIWYG because I'm seeing purl bumps, right? So I know that I need to make that be a purl. So anyway, it's not super the end of the world whether or not you do it right slanting or left slanting. Just make sure that it's a purl bump on the public side.